Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah and my first crafting tutorial for 2023. I hope that you had a wonderful Christmas and New Year. Today's project is a brand new free layered SVG and it's these Chinese lanterns just in time for Chinese New Year, which for 2023 will be on the 22nd of January. Let's find out how to make it. You can download the free cutting file for this project at craftwithsarah.com/free-SVGs or follow the link in the description of this video to go straight to the download page. The download comes in a zip folder and you need to unzip this before you can upload the files into Cricut Design Space. Once you've downloaded and unzipped the files, it's time to upload the SVG file into Cricut Design Space. Open up Design Space and start a new project. Go into Upload over on the left and then Upload Image. You can then either click Browse to find the file on your computer or drag and drop it in. Make sure you choose the unzipped version of your folder and then the file to choose is the one which starts SVG in the file name. Click and drag that in and then it should look like this with all of the layers one on top of the other. If yours looks different and you see the layers next to each other instead, that means you've accidentally uploaded the wrong file. So if that's the case, click Cancel down here on the bottom and then try again and make sure you choose the one which starts SVG. Click on Upload and then when it's uploaded, it will appear in your recent uploads. So you can click it to get that green border around it and then press Add to Canvas. To resize the design, you can use the width and the height boxes at the top. Make sure that this padlock icon is closed. If yours is open, like mine is at the moment, then simply click on it to close it. It's a little bit buggy at the moment, so you might have to click it twice before the padlock actually changes to make it look closed. That means now when I type in either the width or the height, so let's say I wanted to make it a bit smaller at 6 inches and press Enter on my keyboard, the height automatically changes as well, so everything remains in proportion. However, I think I'm actually going to do this quite big, so let's go for 7.5 inches wide, and then that'll make it almost 8 inches tall. If you want to just cut the lanterns without the background, you can do that. So look down the layers panel, all the way down here, and then you've got these 3 layers at the very bottom. Click the eye icon that appears over them when you hover to hide those layers. So you can remove all of those and just cut the branches and the lanterns if you want to. However, I'm going to do the whole thing, so let's turn those back on by clicking the eye again. This is now all ready to cut out, so it's nice and easy in Design Space. Click on Make It, and then that will separate everything out into the different colours. You can use this drop down on the left to change the paper size, and then you can also click and drag to move the shapes about, which can help to use up less of your cardstock. For example, I've got all this gap here that these little flowers will fit into perfectly. Just be careful when you're moving things that you don't overlap any of the cut lines, otherwise it won't cut out properly. So go ahead, get all of your paper sizes set and move things about if you want to. And then when you're ready to cut it out, press Continue down on the bottom right. That will connect to your Cricut machine and then follow the on-screen instructions to get everything cut out from your cardstock. Here are all of my layers cut out and I've laid them one on top of the other to make sure I'm happy with the colours and that I haven't missed anything out. I used a kind of deep yellow card to cut out the yellow sections of the design, but I think it would look equally lovely, or perhaps even a little bit more lovely if it was cut from gold, because I think if there was a bit of shimmer on there against all of this rich red, it would look really, really pretty. However, I am still very happy with that yellow. It gives that lovely pop of colour and a lovely little brightness to the lanterns. I have already glued all of my little white flowers onto the pink ones, just because they're quite small and I was a little bit worried that I was going to lose them before I managed to get this on camera. But everything else is still waiting to be stuck. As with all my layered designs, we need to start at the bottom and work upwards. But before we do that, let's take a little look at how we're going to be sticking it together. The glue I'm using is called Kalal. I really like it because it doesn't bend or wrinkle the cardstock like some glues can do. And then I put it into these needle tip applicator bottles. That's going to be especially helpful for this design as there are lots of thin pieces of cardstock, and this little nozzle will be able to get into them really easily. To make a little bit of a 3D effect, I'll be using foam squares on some of the layers. The ones I'm using are from Dot & Dab, but there are loads of different types of brands available, so whatever you have should be absolutely fine. If yours are big, then you might need to cut them smaller with a pair of scissors so that they'll fit in the design. Your download folder contains an assembly guide PDF document, which goes through all of the layers and tells you the order to stick them together in and whether to use glue or foam for each one. But don't worry if you don't have that to hand, because I'm going to show you every single step of the way in the next section of this video. As we're starting at the bottom, we need to move all of these layers apart. I'm going to try and keep the lanterns all in their relevant spaces, just because I've already gone to all of that trouble of putting it into position. So let's carefully drag that off. And then I've got all of these. And these two are my bottom layers with that one on top. For this layer here, you can choose whether you want to glue it or if you want to use foam. It's up to you. Gluing it means you see more of that base colour, but the design does end up a little bit flatter. Whereas if you foam it, then you do get a little bit more shadowing through the gaps, but it has more depth to it. And I am going to foam it, I think. That was a tough decision. All right, so here are my foam squares. I'm going to need quite a bit for this as it's a big piece of cardstock. I always wear this jumper and it's got really baggy sleeves on it, so it catches on everything. And I always think I need to remember not to wear this jumper when I'm filming. And of course, I instantly forget. It's a really warm jumper though, and it's cold in my studio. So sometimes warmth wins over convenience, I suppose. As well as putting the foam squares around the edge, you're going to make sure you've got a good amount in the middle too. And that's because if there was nothing in the middle of this big bit of card, it's going to bend itself downwards under the weight of itself, which means that the middle of the design won't have that 3D effect. It will just touch the layer underneath and it will look really uneven. We don't want that. We want this to be beautifully even and stable, which is why I'm adding these foam squares in the middle sections as well as around the edge, and also just making sure I've got a good even distribution of them across the whole of the piece of card. Now that I've put these on, I can peel the tops off of the foam squares to reveal the stickiness underneath. Right, here we go. I can line this up and it perfectly lines up around the edge. I'm going to get that to where I think it should go and gently drop it down. And the reason for just gently laying it is that if I hadn't quite lined it up right, I could pick it up and move it and it wouldn't damage anything because it hasn't actually stuck yet. It's just been placed on top. But I am happy with that. So I'm going to push down to seal all of the foam. The next layer is this one to add more details to the red, and this one will be a glue layer. I just think it's a little bit thin to be adding foam to, but of course, if you want to be adventurous, you absolutely could foam this instead. And my foam squares would actually fit pretty well, but I'm going to stick with the glue. Stick with the glue. Yeah, I shouldn't be a comedian. Right, let's run this around the edge. And then make sure there's some in the middle bits too. And this is where I'm gonna have my hand at a really awkward angle because I'm trying not to drip my sleeve in the glue. Okay, bring that back. And this time it doesn't line up all the way around the edge, but you can line up the little overlapping bits along here to know where to put it. Beautiful. All right, next we've got the branch. So I'm going to move these, try and keep them in the same order. There we go. Oops. Get these out the way. There we go. And then this branch layer we will do with the foam. Make it pop out from the background. I can't quite fit my foam in that bottom bit, so I've got some that I cut in half for a previous project, and I'll get some of them in instead, because you don't want your foam to go over the outside of any of the pieces, otherwise you'll see it when we turn it over, and we don't want that. So I think I'm going to use the bottom of the lanterns as my guide for this one. That didn't work very well, did it? I just dropped that in completely the wrong place. All right, maybe I'll try the flowers instead. It's a bit tricky, this piece, because of the hanging bits. They've just got a thin bit here, so it can be a bit tricky. Oh, I'm messing this up. That's nearly there, but not quite. So this is where it's good to just place the foam carefully, as it means you can pick it up and move things. There. Oh, no, not quite on that one. There we go. We got there. There. Okay, next I'll do this lantern, the one that goes here. And the bottom layer is the yellow one, which is a foam layer. And I'm not going to worry about getting any foam in that very top bit because that is very narrow. But I will try and get some in these bits. I'll need to cut my foam smaller again. Just one in the middle should be okay. Much easier this time. There's that one. Then next I've got the solid red, which will be another foam layer. There. Then next is the darker red, which is a glue layer. Ooh, dropping my glue bottle. I left the lid off all that time we were foaming as well, so hopefully it hasn't dried out. No, we're good. Like that. And finally, the white layer, which is again a glue one. This is what I meant about the needle tip bottles being helpful, because it's quite thin. All right, let's do the other lantern next. It'll go very similarly, except the colours are a bit different. So this one is the bottom, and it will be a foam layer. I'll need my narrow bits to go in that bottom. One there. And then next is the yellow one. And this one, you could probably do either. I'm going to glue it, which does mean this one will be out a little bit further than the other one, but I don't think that matters. Finally, the white one, again a glue layer. There. All we've got left now are the beautiful blossom flowers to go on top. As I said, I have already stuck the white ones on, so I can just add these on top. I use foam for the first one. They are all slightly different sizes, but we've got 4 which are the same and then 2 smaller ones. So just make sure that you're putting them in the right place. And a little bit more foam for the next one. In fact, I'm going to foam them all. Let's just cheat and do all the foam in one go. Last one on the end. And there we have it. Our beautiful Chinese lanterns are all ready for Chinese New Year. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to make this free layered SVG of Chinese lanterns for Chinese New Year. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more Cricut crafts and free SVGs. Thank you for watching. Bye!